If you grew up in the 1980s and 90s, you're going to love this. Welcome to a new series on the channel called Nostalgia Nut. Hello, Dale Murphy. Welcome to Change is Good. My name is Brian. In this video, we're going to go through a box of 1988 Donruss baseball cards. I was 8 years old when these baseball cards were released. This will definitely be a trip down memory lane. This is a full box of 36 unopened packs. Each pack contains 3 Stan Musial puzzle pieces and 15 baseball cards. There aren't any super rare or valuable cards in the 1988 Donruss baseball card set, but there are some highlights we'll be looking for. These include star players of the time such as Nolan Ryan, Bo Jackson, Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, and Cal Ripken Jr. We'll also be looking for the Donruss Diamond Kings series, the rated rookies, and the special MVP bonus cards mentioned here on the box. This box contains a total of 108 puzzle pieces and 540 baseball cards. And because these packs are 37 years old now, I'm going to do my best to not damage the packaging. And as a reminder, if you like this type of content and this trip down memory lane, hit that like, share, and subscribe, and now let's get started. Okay, here's pack number 1. It's been a long time, folks. Trying not to tear the packaging. There we go. All right. One puzzle piece. First card is Bob Walk, Craig Lefferts, Jeff Blauser, Frank Williams, Mark Grant, Steve Lake, Jeff Calhoun. I still remember most of these guys. Robbie Wine, Bob James, Gino Petrelli, Joe Hesketh, Greg Minton, Eric Plunk, Angel Salazar, and Ken Schramm. Okay, pack number 2. Luckily, they're easy to open. All right. One puzzle piece. Mariano Duncan, Julio Franco, Wayne Tollison, Wade Boggs, there we go. There's a slugger. Matt Noakes, Bill Wegman, Terry Kennedy, and our first Diamond Kings, Alan Trammell, not bad. Frank Valla, there's another good card. An all-star player, Dave Stieb, Scott Bradley, Kelly Downs, Sean Dunston, Felix Furman, and Ozzie Virgil. That pack was better. All right, here's pack number 3. I've got a stack for Diamond Kings here. I'll make one for rated rookies and MVPs here with all-star players here on this side. There's a checklist. More puzzle pieces. There's Wade Boggs again, our first double. Matt Noakes, Bill Wegman, Terry Kennedy, another Alan Trammell Diamond Kings. Looks like we got a duplicate pack here. Frank Valla again, Dave Stieb, Scott Bradley, Sean Dunston, Kelly Downs, Felix Furman, Ozzie Virgil, Ted Power, Jimmy Jones, and a checklist. Here's pack number 4. Let's hope we get something different this time. All right, puzzle piece. Bill Wilkinson, Dwayne Ward, Roy Smalley, Andre Dawson. There's a good card. Diamond Kings. Cecil Fielder. There's also a pretty good card. Gene Larkin, Harold Reynolds, Keith Miller, Lester Lancaster, Jose Uribe, another pretty good card. Jeff Robinson, Dave Leiper, Terry McGriff, Wally Ritchie, and John Tudor. Pack number 5. I'm just glad they're easy to open. There's a puzzle piece. That's the last of the 3 puzzle pieces there. All right. Tracy Woodson of the Dodgers. Jim Stoddard of the Yankees. I'll start naming the teams now. Sam Horn of the Red Sox. Bill Madlock of the Tigers. Mark Knudsen of the Brewers. Mike Griffin of the Orioles. Cal Daniels Diamond Kings. There we go. Fred Manrique of the White Sox. There we go. Barry Larkin of the Reds. There's a slugger. Dan Gladden of the Twins. Tom Hinkie of the Blue Jays. Ken Phelps of the Mariners. There we go. A John Failer rated rookie. There's a good card right there. Jim Sundberg of the Cubs. And Bill Allman of the Mets. I don't know about you, but I'm having a blast. Here goes pack number 6. All right. 3 puzzle pieces. Ted Power of the Reds. Jimmy Jones of the Padres. Joe McGrain of the Cardinals. Mike Jackson of the Phillies. Bob Nepper of the Astros. Ozzie Guillen of the White Sox. Jose Guzman of the Rangers. Willie Frazier of the Angels. Neil Heaton of the Expos. Gene Nelson of the A's. Danny Jackson of the Royals. Brooke Jacoby of the Indians. Ken Howell of the Dodgers. Rich Gedman and Rick Rhoden of the Yankees. And pack number 7. Will it be lucky? Only one way to find out. That looks like a Diamond Kings here on the back. Oh, that's a good card. Card number 2, Diamond Kings Tim Raines. That's one of the more valuable ones. That's a good sign right there. And 3 puzzle pieces. Jim Lindeman of the Cardinals. Mike Devereaux of the Dodgers. Ted Simmons of the Braves. Ed Correa of the Rangers. A rated rookie, Mackie Sasser. Not bad. Floyd Humans of the Expos. Jay Howell of the A's. Mark Kubica of the Royals. Hope I pronounced that right. There we go. Fernando Valenzuela, an all-star player of the Dodgers. Pat Clemens of the Yankees. There we go. Roger Clemens. That's a great card. Eric King of the Tigers. Ken Dixon of the Orioles. Mike Birkbeck of the Brewers. And the Tim Raines Diamond Kings. A bit off center, but still a great card. Okay, pack number 8. The required puzzle pieces. Rocky Childress of the Astros. Dave LaPointe of the White Sox. Darryl Miller of the Angels. Mike Lloyd of the Rangers. There we go, a rated rookie, Gary Thurman of the Royals. Dennis Martinez of the Expos. Jose Rijo of the A's. Jerry Don Gleaton of the Royals. Jay Booner of the Yankees. There's a rated rookie, Vicente Palacios. Kurt Wilkerson of the Rangers. Dave Smith of the Astros. Another rookie, Kurt Manwaring. Jerry Brown of the Rangers. And Don Sutton of the Angels. So far, we're doing pretty well. Here's pack number 9. The puzzle pieces. We have Rick Manning of the Brewers. Dave Dravecky of the Giants. Mike Bielecki of the Pirates. Chris Brown of the Padres. Manny Hernandez of the Astros. Jeff Stone of the Phillies. John Morris of the Cardinals. George Hendrick of the Angels. Ernest Riles of the Brewers. Carl Nichols of the Orioles. Dan Petry of the Tigers. Dave Anderson of the Dodgers. Joel Skinner of the Yankees. Dave Clark of the Indians. And Dave Stewart of the A's. Okay, pack number 10. All right. Got Stan's face and those puzzle pieces. All right. Jack Morris of the Tigers. Eric Bell of the Orioles. Juan Nieves of the Brewers. Richard Dotson of the White Sox. There you go, a Jack Clark Diamond Kings. Card number 15. Not bad. John Franco of the Reds. Jeff Reardon of the Twins. Mark Eichhorn of the Blue Jays. Mike Morgan of the Mariners. Here we go, a rated rookie. Mike Campbell of the Mariners as well. Jody Davis of the Cubs. Sid Fernandez of the Mets. Chris Bozio of the Brewers. Mike Krukow of the Giants. And Bob Kipper of the Pirates. Okay, pack number 11. Puzzle pieces. Checklist, card number 600. We have Scott Terry of the Cardinals, Scott Sanderson of the Cubs, Al Newman of the Twins, a Diamond Kings checklist. There's a good card, Tom Glavine. That's one of the more valuable cards in the set, believe it or not. Keith Hughes of the Phillies, Doug Sisk of the Mets, Mike Scott of the Astros, MVP. There we go. Another checklist, card number 500. There's a rated rookie, Eddie Williams. That is the Stan Musial completed puzzle piece card. That's cool. Nice. Wally Joyner, MVP of the Angels. Another MVP. That's pretty cool. And David Wells of the Blue Jays. That was a good pack. And here's pack number 12. Puzzle pieces. We have Jeff Perrette of the Expos, Dwayne Murphy of the A's, Jamie Quirk of the Royals, Carmen Castillo of the Indians, Tommy John, infamous name, of the Yankees, Brian Holton of the Dodgers, Jim Rice of the Red Sox, Willie Hernandez of the Tigers, Mike Felder of the Brewers, Mike Young of the Orioles. There's another Diamond Kings, Glenn Hubbard. Nice. Juan Berenguer, I guess that's how you pronounce it, of the Twins. Dave Valle of the Mariners. Ernie Witt of the Blue Jays, and Kenny Maldonado of the Giants. Pack number 13. All right. Dan Quisenberry of the Royals, Dale Mahorkic of the Rangers. There's a rated rookie, Jody Reed of the Red Sox, Paul Kilgus of the Rangers, Hubie Brooks of the Expos, Steve Ontiveros of the A's, Bill Pecota of the Royals, Eddie Allenson of the Indians, Tim Cruz of the Dodgers, Dan Pasqua of the Yankees, Frank Tanana of the Tigers, Jay Aldrich of the Brewers, Jim Dwyer of the Orioles, Bob Sebra of the Expos, and John Pawlowski of the White Sox. And pack number 14. Looky there. George Brett there on the back. Good card. There's another puzzle piece. Where'd I got those though? All right. Benito Santiago of the Padres. Kevin Gross of the Phillies. Mike Scott of the Astros. Bob Forsch of the Cardinals. There's a good card. Wally Joyner of the Angels. And a Denny Tartabull Diamond Kings card. Nice. Dan Plesac of the Brewers. Ray Knight of the Orioles. Tom Brookins of the Tigers. Mike Pagliarulo of the Yankees. That was the best way I can pronounce it. Mike Sciascia of the Dodgers. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Mickey Tettleton of the A's. Scott Bales of the Indians. Bobby Witt of the Rangers. And George Brett of the Royals. Pack number 15. Those little pieces. Damon Berryhill of the Cubs. Bob Melvin of the Giants. Jay Bell of the Indians. Mike Flanagan of the Blue Jays. Wes Gardner of the Red Sox. Roberto Kelly of the Yankees. Alan Trammell of the Tigers, MVP card. Rafael Santana of the Mets. Bob Ojeda of the Mets. There's a Mark Langston Diamond Kings card. Nice. Tim Laudner of the Twins. Jeff Musselman of the Blue Jays. Andre Dawson MVP card of the Cubs. There's a good card there. And Dave Hingle of the Mariners. Pack number 16. Are you all having fun yet? Now, if I mispronounce people's names, let me know in the comments because it's been a long time since I really seen these players in action. Puzzle pieces. Bob Dernier of the Cubs. Mike Dunn of the Pirates. Rick Mahler of the Braves. Dave Parker of the Reds. Good player. Eric Show of the Padres. Todd Worrell of the Cardinals. Don Carmen of the Phillies. Denny Walling of the Astros. Floyd Bannister of the White Sox. Adibe McDowell of the Rangers. Kirk McCaskill of the Angels. Andy McGaffigan of the Expos. Mike Gallego of the A's. Steve Farr of the Royals. And Tom Candiotti of the Indians. Pack number 17. We're almost halfway through the box now. Puzzle pieces. Bill Buckner of the Angels. Dave Meads of the Astros. Terry Pendleton of the Cardinals. Chris James of the Phillies. Ruben Sierra of the Rangers. Tim Wallach of the Expos. Tony Phillips of the A's. There we go. Bo Jackson of the Royals. That's one of the more valuable cards for sure. Pat Tabler of the Indians. Another valuable card, Don Mattingly. This is an awesome pack of the Yankees. Franklin Stubbs of the Dodgers. Dwight Evans of the Red Sox. Chet Lemon of the Tigers. Jim Gettner of the Brewers. And Ken Gerhart of the Orioles. Pack number 18. This will put us halfway through the box. And so far, I'm not disappointed. This has been pretty fun. Okay. Puzzle pieces hiding a rated rookie card. Jeff Treadway of the Reds. Charlie Huff of the Rangers. Tim Burke of the Expos. Kurt Young of the A's. Brett Saberhagen of the Royals. There we go. Oral Hershiser of the Dodgers. Chris Bando of the Indians. Dave Rietti of the Yankees. Walt Terrell of the Tigers. Bob Stanley of the Red Sox. Ted Higuera of the Brewers. Mike Boddicker of the Orioles. Jeff Reed of the Expos. Donnie Hill of the White Sox, and Mike Witt of the Angels. Pack number 19. All right. Matt Williams of the Giants. Andy Van Slyke of the Pirates MVP card. Andre Thomas of the Braves. Nice. Pat Perry of the Reds. Tony Gwynn MVP card of the Padres. There's another good card. There we go. The Ripken Baseball Family. Another great card in the set. Mike Schmidt MVP card. Man, this pack is loaded. Greg Myers of the Blue Jays. Ed Romero of the Red Sox. Domingo Ramos of the Mariners. Donnie Moore of the Angels. Randy Myers of the Mets. Barry Lyons of the Mets. And Gene Garber of the Royals. Pack number 20. Puzzle pieces. Alex Trevino of the Dodgers. Calvin Schiraldi of the Red Sox. Charles Hudson of the Yankees. Dave Bergman of the Tigers. Mark Clear of the Brewers. Dave Schmidt of the Orioles. Gary Redus of the White Sox. And a Ron Darling Diamond Kings card. Nice. Eric Davis of the Reds. Fred Manrique of the White Sox. Another Diamond Kings, Cal Daniels. This is a good pack too. Barry Larkin of the Reds. Dan Gladden of the Twins. Tom Hinkie of the Blue Jays. And Kim Phelps of the Mariners. Pack number 21. Puzzle pieces. Vance Law of the Expos. Harold Baines of the White Sox. Gary Pettis of the Angels. Craig Reynolds of the Astros, Tommy Herr of the Cardinals, Vaughn Hayes of the Phillies, Buddy Bell of the Reds, John Kruk of the Padres. There's a good player. Will Clark of the Giants. I think that's one of the more valuable cards also. Tommy Gregg of the Pirates. Ken Griffey of the Braves. Nice. Keith Moreland of the Cubs. Gary Carter of the Mets. Another all-star player. Ray Quinones of the Mariners. And Rance Mulliniks of the Blue Jays. Pack number 22. Looky there. Diamond Kings on the back. Try not to tear it. Our puzzle pieces. Greg Matthews of the Cardinals. Jim Deshaies of the Astros. I think that's how you pronounce it. Shane Raleigh of the Phillies. Rob Murphy of the Reds. Scott Geraltz of the Giants. Ed Whitson of the Padres. Doug Drabeck of the Pirates. There we go. Dale Murphy of the Braves. He's one on the box. That's also one of the more valuable cards. Upside down for some reason. Kim Oberkfell of the Braves. Ed Lynch of the Cubs. Ron Darling of the Mets. Mike Moore of the Mariners. Jim Clancy of the Blue Jays. Les Straker of the Twins. And our Diamond Kings, Julio Franco. Pack number 23. Got to be careful with this stuff. All right. There's our puzzle piece. Here's a Joe Carter MVP card. Nice. Kevin Reynolds of the Mets. A Wade Boggs MVP card. Bobby Meacham of the Yankees. Scott Lusader of the Tigers. Lee Mazzilli of the Mets. Rick Reuschel of the Giants. I think that's how you say it. Ivan Calderon of the White Sox MVP card. A Scott Fletcher Diamond Kings card. Nice. Tom Nieto of the Twins. An Eric Davis MVP card. Man, this pack is loaded with stuff too. Jose Nunez of the Blue Jays. Mickey Brantley of the Mariners. A rated rookie, Jackie McDowell. Nice. And a Mike Brumley of the Cubs. Pack number 24. 2 dozen in. Here's our puzzle pieces. And first off, we got a rated rookie, John Farrell of the Indians. Jim Sundberg of the Cubs. Bill Almond of the Mets. Mike Bielecki of the Pirates. Chris Brown of the Padres. Jeff Stone of the Phillies, Manny Hernandez of the Astros, John Morris of the Cardinals, George Hendrick of the Angels, another rated rookie, Jose Lind of the Pirates, Bob Brower of the Rangers, Tim Raines of the Expos, Tony Bernazard of the Athletics, Jim Eisenreich of the Royals, and Mel Hall of the Indians. Pack number 25. Okay. Steve Lamardazzi of the Twins. Here we go. Paul Molitor, Diamond Kings. That's a good card. Fred McGriff of the Blue Jays. Gary Gaetti of the Twins. I think that's how you pronounce it. Alvin Davis of the Mariners. Jesse Orozco of the Mets. Leon Durham of the Cubs. Deion James of the Braves. Bob Brenly of the Giants. Sid Bream of the Pirates. Stan Jefferson of the Padres. Bo Diaz of the Reds. Luis Aguayo of the Phillies. I think that's how you say it. Glenn Davis of the Astros, and Mark McLemore of the Angels. Pack number 26. Here's our puzzle pieces. We have Bert Blyleven of the Twins, Jimmy Key of the Blue Jays, Scott Bankhead of the Mariners. There we go. Dwight Gooden of the Mets. There's an all-star player. Rick Sutcliffe of the Cubs. Kevin Mitchell of the Giants. R.J. Reynolds of the Pirates. Mark Davis of the Padres. Tom Browning of the Reds. Steve Bedrosian of the Phillies. And there we go. There's a card I was looking for. In higher grades, this is the most valuable card of the entire set. Although this one probably won't grade a 10. It's a little off center. Nolan Ryan of the Astros. Danny Cox of the Cardinals. Jose De Leon of the White Sox. Dwayne Buise, I'm assuming that's how you say it, of the Angels. And Ed Correa of the Rangers. Pack number 27. More puzzle pieces. John Candelaria of the Mets. Paul Molitor, MVP card of the Brewers. There we go. Harry Spillman of the Giants. Jim Gott of the Pirates. Randall Byers of the Padres. Tom Newell of the Phillies. Terry Leach of the Mets. Here we go. Cal Ripken MVP card. That's a great card to find as well. And a Will Clark Diamond Kings, another great card. And another Diamond Kings, Tony Fernandez. Man, this pack is great. Don August of the Brewers. Jose Mesa of the Orioles. Mark Thurmond of the Tigers. Alejandro Pena of the Dodgers. And Neil Allen of the Yankees. Pack number 28. We have Jose Gonzalez of the Dodgers. Claudell Washington of the Yankees. Mike Greenwell of the Red Sox. Greg Brock of the Brewers. Mike Heath of the Tigers. Billy Ripken of the Orioles. Brian Smith of the Expos. Ken Williams of the White Sox. Jack Howell of the Angels. Larry Anderson of the Astros. Bill Dawley of the Cardinals. Mike Schmidt of the Phillies. Dave Concepcion of the Reds. I think that's how you say it. Tim Flannery of the Padres. And Jeffrey Leonard of the Giants. Pack number 29. The checklist on the back. Puzzle pieces. We have Ivan Calderon of the White Sox. Jack Clark of the Cardinals. Scott Fletcher of the Rangers. Nelson Liriano, rated rookie card. Casey Candelli, I'm assuming that's how you say it, of the Expos. Carney Lansford of the Athletics. Danny Tartabull of the Royals. Steve Sachs of the Dodgers. Ron Goodry of the Yankees. Ellis Burks of the Red Sox. Lou Whitaker of the Tigers. B.J. Surhoff of the Brewers. And Cal Ripken of the Orioles. That's a non-MVP card. This is also one of the most valuable cards in the set. It's a good find right there. And a Benito Santiago Diamond Kings card. Nice. And we'll end it off with a checklist. And here's pack number 30. Try this side. There we go. Our puzzle pieces. We have Mackie Sasser, rated rookie of the Pirates. Floyd Humans of the Expos. Mark Kubica of the Royals. I think that's how you say it. Jay Howell of the A's. Fernando Valenzuela of the Dodgers. Pat Clements of the Yankees. Another Roger Clemens of the Red Sox. It's a good card. Mike Birkbeck of the Brewers. Eric King of the Tigers. Ken Dixon of the Orioles. Another Tim Raines Diamond Kings. A checklist again. Tony Pena of the Cardinals. Jamie Moyer of the Cubs. And Junior Ortiz of the Pirates. Pack number 31. I could do this all day. Our puzzle pieces. We have Sammy Stewart of the Indians. Storm Davis of the A's. John Davis of the Royals. Steve Howe of the Rangers. Vicente Palacios, rated rookie of the Pirates. I think that's how you say his name. Kurt Wilkerson of the Rangers. Pascual Perez of the Expos. Rick Honeycutt of the A's. Melito Perez of the Royals. Doug Jones of the Indians. Tim Belcher of the Dodgers. Bill Gullickson of the Yankees. Jeff Sellers of the Red Sox. And Doyle Alexander of the Tigers. Pack number 32. Jeff Dedman of the Braves. Rafael Palmeiro of the Cubs. Dave Magadan of the Mets. Mike Kingery of the Mariners. John Cerruti of the Blue Jays. Kent Urbeck of the Twins. It's a Gary Getty Diamond Kings card. Nice. Tony Fernandez of the Blue Jays. Keith Atherton of the Twins. Mark Langston of the Mariners. Keith Hernandez of the Mets. I believe he was famous that year. Paul Nosey of the Cubs. I think that's how you say it. Glenn Hubbard of the Braves. Chili Davis of the Giants. Mike Lavaliere of the Pirates. Pack number 33. We have Tony Pena of the Cardinals. Jamie Moyer of the Cubs. Zane Smith of the Braves. Junior Ortiz of the Pirates. Bruce Ruffin of the Phillies. Ron Robinson of the Reds. Tony Gwynn of the Padres. There's a good card. Alan Ashby of the Astros. Greg Walker of the White Sox. Lance Johnson, rated rookie of the Cardinals. Mitch Williams of the Rangers. Jack Lazorko of the Angels. Mike Fitzgerald of the Expos. Charlie Leibrandt of the Royals, and Terry Steinbach of the A's. Pack number 34. We have Zane Smith of the Braves. I think we just had that one. Yep, Ron Robinson of the Reds. Bruce Ruffin of the Phillies. Another Tony Gwynn. I'll take that one for sure. Alan Ashby of the Astros. Greg Walker of the White Sox. Lance Johnson, rated rookie of the Cardinals again. Mitch Williams of the Rangers. Jack Lazarko of the Angels. Mike Fitzgerald of the Expos. Terry Steinbach of the A's. Charlie Leibrandt of the Royals. Julio Franco of the Indians. Mariano Duncan of the Dodgers. And Wayne Tollefson of the Yankees. Here's pack number 35, last two packs. We have Brad Kaminsky of the Brewers. Rene Gonzalez of the Orioles. Herm Winningham of the Expos. Ron Hassey of the White Sox. Gary Lucas of the Angels. Ty Gainey of the Astros. Tom Pagnozzi of the Cardinals. Steve Jeltz of the Phillies. Dennis Rasmussen of the Reds. Rob Nelson of the Padres. Don Robinson of the Giants. Darnell Coles of the Pirates. Pete Smith of the Braves. Frank DiPino of the Cubs. And Howard Johnson of the Mets. And here's pack number 36, the final pack. Will it be a good one? Let's hope. We have Greg Booker of the Padres. Tracy Jones of the Reds. Darren Daulton of the Phillies. Willie McGee of the Cardinals. Ken Caminiti of the Astros. Bill Long of the White Sox. Bob Boone of the Angels. Pete Incaviglia of the Rangers. Joey Meyer, rated rookie. Tom Foley of the Expos. Bud Black of the Royals. There we go. Jose Canseco of the A's. That's a great card. Mickey Hatcher of the Dodgers. Dave Winfield of the Yankees. Another good card. And we'll end it off with Todd Benzinger of the Red Sox. Well, those were the first packs of vintage baseball cards I've gone through in a very long time, and it was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Now we'll do a recap of the highlights, starting off with the Diamond Kings. We had 16 of the 26 Diamond Kings in the set. Here we have Tim Raines, Benito Santiago, Alan Trammell, Danny Tartabull, Ron Darling, Paul Molitor, Andre Dawson, Julio Franco, Scott Fletcher, Tony Fernandez, Jack Clark, Kyle Daniels, Gary Gaddy, Mark Langston, Will Clark, and Glenn Hubbard, as well as the checklist. We also had 14 different rated rookie cards. Here we have Mackie Sasser, Jeff Treadway, Mike Campbell, Lance Johnson, Nelson Liriano, Joey Meyer, Jose Lind, Kurt Manwaring, Jody Reed, John Farrell, Gary Thurman, Vicente Palacios, Eddie Williams, and Jack McDowell. And if you're curious, we also found all 63 Stan Musial puzzle pieces. As for the more valuable base cards, here are the top 12. First up is the Ripken Baseball Family. Next we have George Brett of the Royals, Dale Murphy of the Braves, Eric Davis of the Reds, Don Mattingly of the Yankees, Will Clark of the Giants, Wade Boggs of the Red Sox, Tom Glavine of the Braves, Tony Gwynn of the Padres, Cal Ripken Jr. of the Orioles, Bo Jackson of the Royals, and the top card was Nolan Ryan of the Astros. When it comes to values and higher grades, these were the top 3 cards. This box had a lot of great cards, but there are still some we missed, such as Greg Jeffries, Barry Bonds, and the Mark McGwire Diamond Kings card. Maybe another time. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and the trip down memory lane, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. And this video was somewhat of an experiment on the channel, so if you'd like to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments. I do have a couple other boxes. Thanks again, and remember, every card has a story. You know the routine. I'll see y'all next time.